Welcome to The Record Show, your virtual spin around the vinyl industry. Brought to you by Radio Wasteland Records. Yes, Midland has a record store. Here's your host, Jim Gleason.
Well, greetings from the Wasteland, and welcome to another edition of The Record Show. And unfortunately, today we're going to have to go with an abbreviated edition. As you know, Record Store Day drop number 1 for 2021 is upon us. So Ken is a little tied up getting some last minute things ready to go from his end. And here at our store, we're a little bit overwhelmed as well. So we're going to cut things a little short today. Don't worry, we'll still have some fun at least. But I thought we'd at least check in on the new releases and take a closer look at one of the Record Store Day releases coming up as well. So when you have a release day so close to a Record Store Day event, it can be a little tough on both sides as these great releases begin to compete with one another. Back when Record Store Day was scheduled for April, as it normally is, that weekend, the Friday, saw a great deal of cool releases coming out that were probably planned in advance before the Record Store Day folks did their idea for splitting into two drops for this year. So as June 11th comes along now for this week's release, the day before Record Store Day drop number 1, some of these they may have shuffled around a little bit, but there are still some cool things on the horizon hitting the day before Record Store Day at an independent store near you. One of the biggest, of course, is the Mammoth WVH release. Greatly anticipated, the first project from Mammoth WVH, which of course is Eddie Van Halen's son, Wolfgang Van Halen. This is a self-titled release, and it is coming out on 2 variations, the regular black vinyl and an indie-exclusive black ice vinyl. My guess is that's going to be some sort of a translucent black vinyl. Some good rock and roll. If you've not heard it, we gave it a listen here, a preview listen, of course, not the vinyl, we don't have it yet, but online, and it is just some good straight-up rock and roll from Wolfgang and Mammoth WVH. I've got to get that right there. Another one that's making kind of an interesting release on Friday is a new studio album by Green Jelly. It's called Garbage Band Kids, and the cover makes it look a little bit like the Garbage Pail Kids, little parody take on that as well. But yes, these are the same guys that hit it big on the Beavis and Butthead era of MTV, back when MTV actually played music on television and so forth. So yeah, this Garbage Band Kids, new stuff from Green Jelly. We'll have to see if it has that same flavor, garbage, as their earlier ones do. There is a Greatest Hits compilation coming out too, a Faith No More Greatest Hits that will be dropping on Friday, as well as a Black Sabbath reissue. We talked about this a little bit. This is a super deluxe box set reissue of the Sabbath album Sabotage, and they've done a few of these for Paranoid being one, and there was another one that escapes me at the moment, but every couple of months they're dropping these great big multi-LP box sets as a anniversary or just an homage back to that. In this case, the Sabotage reissue box set, calling it a super deluxe, it has 4 LPs inside of it, and also comes with a 1975 recreation tour book of that year's tour and a tour poster and a bonus 7-inch included inside. Now the LPs are the reissue remaster of Sabotage, and then I believe it's 16 live tracks contained on the other couple of LPs on there as well. Now also, speaking of reissues, there are a trio of Def Leppard reissues coming out. These are the later Def Leppard into the 2000s era. We're getting X, originally released in 2002. Yeah, with an exclamation point, from 2006. And Songs from the Sparkle Lounge, originally released in 2008. So look for those coming to an indie record store near you as well. And then finally, kind of a surprise release. I ran across this last week when we were getting our orders put together. Something I wasn't sure we were ever going to see, but somehow this seems to be coming true. And I'm speaking, of course, here of reissues of some of Bob Seger's older stuff. Now, there are some reissues out there, don't get me wrong. Things such as the Bob Seger System, Ramblin' Gamblin' Man, which Tales of Lucy Blue, has been reissued a couple of different times. as well as some other Seeger stuff. But this time, they're going back to one of Seeger's biggest live albums for a pair of reissues on that. And I'm speaking of Live Bullet. It's getting the black vinyl treatment, and I believe it's going to be on 180-gram vinyl. It's up there as well, but it also is going to come in an indie exclusive orange vinyl version, which is pretty darn cool. So these are going to be available on Friday, hopefully at record stores near you. We don't see a lot of Seeger stuff in the reissue, so maybe this is a cool trend that they are leaning toward as well. We'll have to see. Now, the orange vinyl version, by the way, just so your pocketbook is prepared, is a little bit pricier. I'll have to get the exact retail price for you, but it is up there a little bit, more so than the black vinyl version. So quick trip down the June 11th releases. Of course, June 12th is going to be the Record Store Day drop number 1. Please check with your local record stores, your independent record stores, to see when they're opening, what their rules are regarding the day, because we're still kind of a goofy thing around the country. Although most of everything is opening up, there is still a little bit of rules and regulations to be followed in some areas of the country as well. So make sure you check with your record store on that. As far as availability goes, if you're unfamiliar with how Record Store Day works, what happens is indie stores like ours put in requests for certain releases, usually to our distributors. Some buy directly from labels as well. But the Record Store Day releases are always tremendously limited. Some more so than others. We're talking maybe 200 or 300 on some releases for the country, some in the tens of thousands, which really isn't that limited when you think about it, but still is a limit. So check to see, because we put our requests in and we're still kind of going through everything that we're getting to see how much of what we requested we ended up with. That'll go on right till the day before, to tell you the truth, as we sort through this. But we did get a lot of stuff here at our store, and I'm sure a lot of other stores are doing fairly well with theirs as well, even though demand, I've heard this year, is way up. Now, if you see a release on the Record Store Day website that you just can't live without, or one of your local stores is saying we've got some copies of this, and you don't get it for some reason, because record stores, per the rules from Record Store Day, are not allowed to hold or reserve things or do early sales or sell online. I believe it's before noon or 1 p.m. local time, or Eastern time rather, of the day of the drop. Because of the limited, you may not always get what you want, to paraphrase the Stones there. But you can take a look around. Obviously, these will be available online, but on the Record Store Day website, when you're looking at these releases, you can gauge, because there are 3 different classifications that they put. One is a Record Store Day exclusive, meaning that the release will be only available on Record Store Day. And if your record store happens to get a dozen copies or 200 copies or 1 copy, that's what they're getting, and you will not be able to find another copy at your record store once those are sold out. There's another category called Record Store Day First, which means that they are releasing this on Record Store Day, but there's going to be a subsequent release sometime down the line. Now, it may not be a colored vinyl version. It may be a different style of pressing, but it will be released again in the very near future. And then third is the Record Store Day regional releases, meaning that different areas of the country have different releases allocated to them differently. So if you see something on the Record Store Day site and you live on the West Coast and it's a regional thing for the Midwest, you may not be able to get it at your local store, and then you'll have to resort to looking online a little bit later on from that. So regardless of how you get your stuff, though, Record Store Day is going to be here, and it's going to be a blast. And as we get things back to normal, we here at the record stores are more than happy to be getting back into gear with RSD 21, and we are looking forward to having a lot of fun here at our store, and hopefully you guys are too. So double check your lists and pay attention to your stores' Facebook pages or other social media accounts to see if they're announcing what they've got and how many they've got. Side note for our store here, if you're curious, go to our Facebook page or go to our YouTube channel. We'll be doing a live preview on Friday evening of everything that we've got here in our store. Shameless self-promotion ended. Let's get on with it. Well, for today's closer look, and since we're talking so much about Record Store Day, I thought we would dive a little bit deeper into a release from something we've talked about previously here on the Record Show. And I'm talking, of course, of the DVD and Blu-ray edition release of Vinyl Nation. We talked with the filmmakers, Kevin and Chris, a couple of weeks back on the show. If you get a chance, please back up and check that out. But we did get our copies here at the Wasteland, and one of them has been open for quality control purposes, just so we could check it out, make sure it's okay, but also to show you folks as well. So as Kevin and Chris had mentioned in our talk a couple of weeks back, the release of this for Record Store Day was done to look like a record release, even though it is a DVD and Blu-ray release. They have put this into a gatefold cover, a gatefold sleeve, and there's some nifty little embossing. It's a little difficult to see, but the flag in the front does have some embossing on there. In this documentary, dig into the record renaissance. Now inside the gatefold, we have a little pocket in there for both the Blu-ray and the regular DVD version. And there's some nifty print on the other side of those to make them look like records. So there's some little information and blurbs in there, a message from Kevin and Chris on there, as well as the two discs tucked neatly into their pockets. Then on the back, there's some film review blurbs and some more information about the documentary itself. Now, this is also a numbered release. There were only 1,000 of these made. As we found out a couple of weeks ago, we happen to have number 350 out of 1,000 here. So if you get a chance to pick this up, you see it at one of your independent record stores on this Record Store Day, please do so. It's a cool collectible to have, limited as well. And it is a great, great documentary film about this hobby so many of us love, record collecting. Check it out if you get a chance. And one final note for Record Store Day drop number 1 coming up this Saturday. If you're looking for a specific release and you're not seeing it anywhere, it's because several of the releases have been moved from drop number 1 to drop number 2 in July. Some of the bigger releases pushed back to drop number 2 include releases from the Beastie Boys, Cat Stevens, Bill Evans, King's X, the Michael Schenker Group, Suzi Quatro, the Rolling Stones, Small Faces, Ultravox, War, and Amy Winehouse. For a full list of the releases that have been moved to the July drop, visit recordstoreday.com. And finally today, no Record Store Day is complete without the anticipation and excitement that goes with that hunt, trying to get those releases that you really, really want this time around. But it's also a chance to think back on some of the goodies that we'd picked up previously. And even though I'm a record store owner, that does hold true for me too, because I'm a collector and I have picked up a few things here and there over the years, even from before we had the store here. But I thought I'd end today with just a little look in the personal collection to a few of the Record Store Day things that I have really managed to acquire over the years. One of them being the 12-inch single from They Might Be Giants. This is from last year. The Don't Let's Start with the other side of We're the Replacements. And as I recall, this is on just very, very, very cool clear vinyl. I'm talking crystal clear vinyl in this case. So what a cool release from They Might Be Giants. And I was happy to get a hold of that one, having been a fan of John and John for quite some time now. Another one from last year, I believe, was the reissue of Roger Waters' The Wall live in Berlin. Now, I've had the original copy of this in my collection for a long, long time, but still the chance to pick up another copy of this last year was just really, really good. This is a great album with a lot of great artists. And at one point, to tell you the truth, I even had a VHS copy of this movie floating around in the collection somewhere, so that's fun. Now on to the Rush-related stuff. You guys know that I'm going to have to dive into that at some point. A couple of years ago, the Geddy Lee solo album, My Favorite Headache, was reissued as a Record Store Day release. Just some really cool stuff. For all intent and purposes, it's Rush minus Neil and Alex, but it just sounds like him, and Geddy is a great artist in his own right, so I was happy to get that. From a few years back, Rush put out this release, a 7-inch of Closer to the Heart with a little adapter inside of there as well. This was around their reissue, I believe the 40th anniversary reissue of Farewell to Kings. And on that note, another cool one from Rush from a couple of years back was the Cygnus X1 Book 1. This was the combination of a theme that existed over 2 albums, of Farewell to Kings and then Hemispheres. Side 2, by the way, is Book 2, Cygnus X1. So it takes that, which existed only from one album to the next, the end of side 2 to the beginning of side 1 of Hemispheres, and combine that narrative into one release. So still really, really cool stuff from our friends from the North. Love this release. And finally, one of my most precious Record Store Day acquisitions was not a Record Store Day release at all. It's actually the album For the Whole World to See from Death. We picked this up sometime after seeing the documentary A Band Called Death, and my daughter Katie and I, as we would do long before we opened the store, would make our annual Record Store Day traverse around Lower Michigan. We would usually start off in Ann Arbor, work our way up to East Lansing and hit the stores there, and then come back through Saginaw and Bay City. And then on one of these years, we ran across this while crate digging for the Record Store Day stuff. And you know what? That's really what Record Store Day is about, is that having fun, especially if you can do it with your family members, make some memories as well. So cool stuff to be had at your local independent record store, no matter where you are. Happy Record Store Day, everybody. Have fun, stay safe, and above all, I think I said it, happy Record Store Day. Here's to your crate dig. We hope it's a successful one.
Spin me right round, baby, right round, like a record, baby, round, 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 round. You spin me right round, baby, right round, like a record, baby, round, 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 round.
Thanks for watching The Record Show. If you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe to the Radio Wasteland Records YouTube channel. And be sure to hit that notifications bell so you'll be alerted every time we upload new content.